to the Mark David Show, where the truth is a conspiracy. What a huge show we have for you today, because there's so much going on in the world that this show has been talking about for months now, and it's all coming true. It's all coming to reality. And why shouldn't it? Okay, so what is going on in the world today? Well, let me tell you. There's so much what I call New World Order news that we better just go ahead and start with that, or we're going to regret it.
A monolithic and ruthless conspiracy.
A new world order.
A new world order.
A new world order.
Military-industrial complex.
A new world order. Henry Kissinger has got to be one of the creepiest men who has ever lived. All right. He's a big fan of the show. Okay, so we're going to start out. Oh, there's so much. Okay, mostly there's so much just going on about tracking everything you do and say and so forth. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of that news. This is from thehill.com. From today, black box standards coming for cars. You know that little black box they have in planes that they couldn't find, conveniently can't find when planes get shot down? Okay, new federal standards for black boxes that record information leading up to auto accidents will take effect September 1st, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration ruled. Now, no reason to really read into this too much. It's just to tell you that right now they're voluntary. I love these things that are quote-unquote voluntary until they're not, which is pretty much every form of tracking us all the time. Is voluntary at first. Voluntarily, here, put this microchip in your children. It's good for you. Okay, let's go on to some more New World Order news. Oh, this is crazy. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is buying 40,000 bullets. So basically the Weather Service, and it's from FBO.gov. Now, why does the Weather Service need 40,000 bullets? Not to mention the hundreds of thousands that were just bought by another Department of Homeland Security. Okay, so moving on. Facebook self-castration button. Yep. The Facebook camera that can recognize you every time you walk into a shop. And this is what I'm trying to say. When did police states become trendy? Okay? They're supposed to be scary, not trendy. You walk into a shop, of course, and where are they experimenting this with? Nashville, because they love experimenting on Tennesseans. I've been talking about that forever. They love to pick on the Tennesseans. Why? Because the Tennesseans trust the New World Order. They love the New World Order. They embrace the New World Order because the New World Order tells them things like, Jesus wanted this. Jesus was a warrior. Jesus needs you to embrace the Bush administration type policies. So anyway, they're experimenting on my former home, Nashville, with this Facebook camera. And of course, all the young, trendy people are going to sign right up for it because why? Well, it's just simply because it's the trendy thing to do. All the cool people are doing it. Okay, let's move on. Speaking of trendy, here's something about yoga I bet you didn't know. Kami Yoga. This is from DNAinfo.com. One of my favorite websites about New York. Yoga instructors want flexibility to freelance. So the city of New York is basically telling yoga instructors you can't be independent contractors anymore. You have to be employees of an organization. And the question is, why would you do that? Why would you hinder commerce like that? Especially New York, which is flat broke. Is so broke that they have to build up their navy. You know, did you know New York has its own navy? Yeah, that's right. They have to build up their navy. They're so broke because they're afraid of the chaos in the streets. But then they'll tell yoga instructors, you know what? You have to be an employee of an organization. So we're going to get in there and hinder your ability to do your own commerce. I've been telling you this. You can listen to my podcast, Jobs Treasury. If you think, I've talked to you about this for weeks now. If you think the government, not the government, okay? The government is a tool. If you think the elites, they don't want you out there working independently. They want you in what I have called one of their welfare jobs because, remember, your labor gives value to things, but jobs are just a way of them giving you welfare and keeping you busy until they're ready to throw you in their private prison. Okay, moving on. It's not that bad yet, but it's heading there. Okay, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to talk about one thing, and then we're going to take a quick break. I want to talk about this Romney, Paul Ryan thing. Because everybody's asking, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think I think? I've been talking about Paul Ryan forever. He's a shill. He's a tool. He's an insider trading. All kinds of words I'm not going to use on radio. Listen, I just want to point this out. How ridiculous is this that we have people implicated in insider trading and a guy who actually ran an investment bank on Wall Street running for Republican president? That's ridiculous. Okay, and this isn't a political show. I could go on about Biden and Obama all day. Biden getting on after the Waco incident and saying that how great the FBI handled that, and it turns out the FBI had actually doused the children in there with cyanide, and you could tell because it turns out, by the way, when you're doused with cyanide, your muscles contract and it actually bends you backwards. Yeah, well, that's how they found those kids. So Biden, Obama, I could go on all day, but I'm not going to because I do it all the time. I'm talking about Romney and Ryan. What a joke. America, America, hello. Is anybody home on this one? This investment banker and this insider trading congressman? Hello. And then what happens? What do people in Wisconsin do? They show up by the tens of thousands to cheer him on because that's how desperate people are for guidance and leadership. And what did I tell you? Before we go to break, I'm going to say this. What did I tell you? So here's Ryan's whole selling point is we're gonna get this back on track. Get what back on track? Hello, Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan. Governments always default, and so will this one, and so will all of them, because that's what they do throughout history 100% of the time. So nobody's going to balance the budget. Nobody's going to come in and cut the deficit. It's not going to happen. They're going to default. And by the way, that's what LIBOR is. They are defaulting. They're defaulting on pension payments. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. The Mark David Show will be right back. All right, now we are in the mood. We are in the mood to whack some bankers now. All right. I should not have said that. Okay. Moving on. Speaking of spying, let's talk a little bit about this New York City's all-seeing eye. This new thing where they already have the grid. Okay, I just talked about the Facebook cameras, okay, and how it's trendy. You can actually sign up to be spied on. This is oh my goodness. No way people are going to sign up for that. You know they are. Okay. This is from HuffingtonPost.com. The system costs between $30 and $40 million to make. This is started out in New York City. By the way, all cameras actually do go. All cameras used by public cities, law enforcement, and so forth actually do go, and many stores, to a central database that the NSA supposedly oversees. What I'm trying to tell you is that New York City has decided to create an elaborate one specifically for law enforcement that they want to McDonaldize, which in other words they want to franchise out. Okay, the system costs between $30 and $40 million, but by partnering with Microsoft, the city hopes to sell the technology to other police departments around the country and, quote, recoup all of our expenses over a period of time and maybe even make a few bucks. It's all about the money, baby. Under the business agreement, the city will rake in 30% of the profits sold. This is from Mayor Bloomberg. You know that billionaire over there who's getting on CNN, Piers Morgan? Wait, you know Piers Morgan, the guy who was the manager of while the Fox News companies were spying on the globe and so forth, were hacking into people's phones? Yeah, that guy who has no business being on TV whatsoever, but he is? Yeah, that one. Bloomberg's been going on his show, Mayor Bloomberg, and saying, disarm everyone. He's actually said the cops should go on strike. Even though he's a Republican, and we all know Republicans, not that this is a political show, but Republicans want to break every union, he's calling for a strike on police departments. So you remember that, police. If you do go on strikes until everyone's unarmed, just remember, you are not to do anything when looters go after Bloomberg's billion-dollar home. Don't do anything because you're on strike. He called a strike for you. Okay, Mayor Bloomberg, quote, what you're seeing is what the private sector has used for a long time. If you walk around with a cell phone, the cell phone company knows where you are. We're not your mom and pop's police department anymore. You're right. You're not. You're more like Bush and Cheney's police department now. Okay, as I've been saying, everything starts in London. I've been talking about this forever because anything they do in London, creepy or New World Order-y, they end up doing in the United States. London is like first of all, London is like the city of the world. It's the dumpiest place in the world. Okay, London. It's a dump. But for some reason, it's the center of all activity. Oh, I know the reason. It's called the City of London, that little 1 square mile financial district that is the financial district of the world, where all the Ponzi scheme, hedge fund, collapsing of companies takes place, where Bernie Madoff was based out of, where Goldman Sachs does their trading, through how they manipulate the gold market. You know, City of London. I talk about it all the time. By the way, the City of London, again, I'll remind you, the Queen of England herself has to ask permission to go in there because it's not controlled by her. Okay. So anyway, they do everything in the City of London. You saw how creepy the Olympics were. The creepiest thing that's ever taken place, the Olympics. I'm not kidding. What a creepy institution that thing was. I'm not even, I like to beat the Olympics up because it had to have been the creepiest thing I ever saw. The pyramids everywhere, the mascots, the music. Seriously, look into all this for the Olympics. Now, I was saying all along that nothing's going to happen. There's not going to be any stupid, they're not going to announce that there's going to be some mass event happening. I knew that wasn't going to happen. But it didn't matter. You didn't need some kind of false flag event at the Olympics because the setup there was creepy enough. Okay, I'm going to finish up this story. Okay, this is, meanwhile in New York City, Police Commissioner Ray Kelly defends stop and frisk in Harlem. This was updated August 9th. This is from DNAinfo.com. So here you have the situation where they've created this mass surveillance grid, and they're increasing the amount that they stop people and harass people on the street. So how much more of that do you think is going to take place when the spy grid's completely in place? How much prosecution do you think is going to take place? Have you heard of the private prisons? Okay, listen, there's a lot more news coming up when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Okay, welcome back to the Mark David Show, where the truth is a conspiracy. You know what? I just had this awesome caller call in. I'm saying this right. Geoff. Anyway, he wanted me to focus more on 1913, and I'm gonna do that. As time goes on. But he made a good point, and I've been trying to hammer this home to some of my homies out there, my global listeners, about the misinformation. And this guy made it good enough, but I have to talk about this, and I want him to call in one of these days, and I'll have him on the air. Remember, if you ever call in on the air, anyone out there, my global listeners, please don't curse. Come on. This is free radio. We want to keep it free of cursing. But Geoff did not curse. I'm just putting that out there. Okay. He made a great point. He talked about misinformation, and I hammer this home as much as I can. You'll see the stuff lined up with, you'll talk about Rockefellers and the Federal Reserve, and then they'll talk about aliens. Okay? Or they'll do the same thing and talk about lizard people. Listen to me. If aliens exist, if lizard people exist, if they do, it has nothing to do with the Rockefellers controlling the medical institutions and the banks. It has nothing to do with it. I'm just putting that out there. Okay. 1913, of course, is when they created the Federal Reserve and the economy was privatized. Okay. People out there signing up to be noticed on Facebook when you walk into your local coffee shop, which may itself be technically a sovereign citizen. Come on, man. Come on, people. Come on. At least the Olympics didn't have a very good turnout. They had to lie about the turnout because people saw the big pyramids with the eye and the glow in there. And I was like, you know what? That's just a little creepy for me. And you know what? If you feel that the Olympics were creepy, God bless you. Allah bless you. Jah bless you. Whatever you're into. Whatever freak show religion you're into. I didn't say that on the air. Okay, we're going to finish up some more New World Order news. Okay, now I've been saying this a long time. There is a place in this society for police officers. Why they have to be armed with assault weapons, I don't know. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of. No, actually, I do know why they're doing it, not the police themselves. But sometimes they get out of hand, and we got to talk about NYPD assaults a New York Times reporter. You know what? I'm going to pass off in this story because actually, I may actually thank that police officer for assaulting that New York Times reporter. I may actually have to give that police officer a shout out. Okay, moving forward. I didn't say that either. Okay, but I do want to talk about police layoffs because they are coming. And I've said this a million times. The police in the Palouse, this side of the world, Moscow, Pullman, they're not bad. Come on, seriously. They're not bad. They're actually pretty good people. You may or may not agree with the organization. And here's one thing you got to understand. You look throughout history, and you'll see organizations that you cherish and you love, and you find out they're ran by tyrants. Sometimes that's just how it works. I'm not justifying. I'm just saying. Okay, but why the police need to be armed with assault weapons? They don't. You're not going to know. Sorry. Some people are just too intelligent to know that does not need to happen. Now, I know that the local police here, one thing I will disagree with besides escorting the megaloads as private Pinkerton contractors, the one thing I will disagree with, too, is this whole notion that we have to have a bunch of weapons for riots like the one that took place at WSU. That was not a riot, okay? That was drunk kids being stupid. Yes, it probably did require the police to go in and bravely handle the situation, but come on, a riot? Come on, really? After last year, you want go to Egypt if you want to see what a riot looks like, okay? Use a different term to describe the WSU event, please. You're insulting my intelligence yet again. Okay, this is from the Fiscal Times. This is the layout. Okay, in December 2010, Oakland, a city with California's highest violent crime rate, laid off more than 10% of its cops. Police, I've been telling you this for a long time. All my police listen out there across the globe. They're going to lay you up. That's what the technology is going to be used against you. Please, police. Email me, markdavidshow@gmail.com, or call in, please. I interview sheriffs. I interview people. Don't be afraid, police. Listen. Tell me at a time in all of history, in any section of the workforce in which technology was brought in and people weren't laid off. I'm sorry. That's how it works. And when you bring in SpyGrid, you bring in cameras, you bring in Facebook cameras for people to sign up for it. You bring in black boxes and put them in cars. You bring in drones. That's going to cost police their jobs. They don't need you out on the street so much, police. They need nerdy little geeky kids who have no soul sitting on computers monitoring every move we make and narking on everybody for every little stupid thing they do. They don't need police officers. They don't need the brute mentality guys. They don't need these guys. I'm not saying societies don't need you. I'm not saying communities don't need you. I'm talking about this thing, this monster thing that's running everything around the world now. That doesn't need you. It doesn't need strong, capable, smart people connected to their community who happen to know jujitsu and can go into a bar and manage a situation. They don't need that. They just need people standing there with the shields, throwing tear gas, and then the drones coming in. You've seen pictures of Vietnam. Okay. With the economic slowdown pushing municipal bonds to the brink, which of course I talk about on this show, police layoffs are rising, and rising crime levels have been a common story in the hardest hit American cities. Survey results, this is from the Fiscal Times, from more than 700 police departments released in April showed that 21% of layoffs in the past 2 years. That 21% had layoffs in the past 2 years. I don't even read my own typing. Another 56% shrank as a result of employee attrition. Quote, this is from the Fiscal Times, quote, in places like Camden, New Jersey, which I talk about thanks to Chris Hedges, and Oakland, California, the budget cuts are having a direct impact on violent crime, which is significantly higher. Which, by the way, in Seattle, violent crime, shooting straight up. Why? Why do you think? The economy. So what is the New World Order doing? They're turning to technology rather than using traditional police methods to handle it. The technology doesn't handle it. Oh, okay, I've seen the movie Terminator. Okay, that's where we're going. Hello? Okay, in Newark, New Jersey, for example, arrest numbers dropped and the crime rate spiked after 167 officers were laid off in December 2010. Between January and June of 2011, police made almost 4,000 fewer arrests than they did during the same period in 2010, according to the New Jersey Star-Ledger. And the city had 91 homicides last year, the most since 2007, while the number of non-fatal shootings rose 35% between 2009 and 2011. That's from the Fiscal Times. Now, this is how I'm gonna follow up on that story. Communities need police because there are criminals out there committing crime. The method in which this machine, algorithm, monstrosity, Leviathan that runs our government, runs our municipalities, that put everyone in debt, blah, blah, blah. This machine, I like to call it the New World Order. This machine is not handling crime in traditional methods. Instead, it's arming police with assault weapons. It's reducing the number of police and bringing in the technology. It's not a way to handle crime. So any politicians, and I guarantee you Romney and Ryan are going to get on there and talk about crime. They're Republicans. It goes with the territory. You can't even have a Republican card, your official Republican ID card, unless it says tough on crime, thanks to guys like Nixon, who was nothing but a criminal. Just pointing that out. All right, let's move on, because you know what? There's more news to cover. Oh, I love this. This is the most ironic thing I think I've ever heard of, almost. This is from DNA Info. I'm doing a lot of New York news because it turns out a lot of crime happens in New York. Okay. One World Trade Center shines in new renderings. This is Lower Manhattan. The new One World Trade Center has never looked better. One World Trade Center. I love that. But it gets better. The title even gets better. The One World Trade Center has never looked better. New renderings released Tuesday show the shimmering skyscraper at sunset. Blah, 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 blah. Now 50% leased. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going down. And who is in the One World Trade Center? How about the China Center? That's right. We're going to call it the One World Trade Center. And everyone else is going to call it the China Center. Based on who actually owns it. That's right, America. Welcome to reality. Here is the problem with China. This is the number one problem China presents. The problem that China presents is people of the United States we're going to essentially have two choices with China. And I'm just going to say this because no one else has the guts to say this. We're either going to go to war with China, maybe through a 1984, the book, type scenario where we go to war in satellite countries like North Korea, Syria, Pakistan, the places where China gets their oil from. Either we war with China or we start turning assets over to them. That's the two choices the United States is going to have with China. Or we can try to crash them, but what's the difference? We crash them by stealing the oil when you invade Pakistan, Syria, Iran, so forth, because that's where they get their oil. And that's what those are all about. So we're going to have those two choices with China. And we know that people like Timothy Geithner get on their knees and kiss China's feet. So what do you think's going to happen? I'm predicting that assets are going to be turned over to China. China is now, by the way, Chinese companies are pulling their money really quickly out of U.S. stocks because that's really what all this is gearing up for. The crash of the stock market, which the value of your home is tied up in, your pension's tied up in, everything is tied up in the stock market. And if Paul Ryan has his way, so will Social Security. Okay, what's left of it? And really, ultimately, I don't want to get too far off here, but Paul Ryan I talk about him on this show all the time. My global listeners know that. He just rubs me wrong. He rubs me wrong. He's a fake Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was an actor. How can you be a fake Ronald Reagan? Well, Paul Ryan seems to pull it off. Paul Ryan is basically offering senior citizens, we will nurture you in a socialist environment. We will nurture you. We will give you senior citizen socialism, which, as I say on the show all the time, everybody's a socialist. If you pump gas, guess what, commie? Guess what, commie? Okay, he is saying, we will give you money, seniors, if you just vote us in, and at least Paul Ryan is admitting, we're going to beat down the younger people. At least he's admitting it. At least he's admitting that's the plan. Because most people wouldn't even do that. And he doesn't mean to admit it. It's the only card he has, because he's not qualified, and he's a criminal. So he has no other card to play. Seniors, put me and this investment banking weirdo, Mitt Romney, in the White House, and seniors, and we will give you socialism and take any remnants of socialism away from everyone under 55. That's his card he's playing. And people are showing up to listen to him say that by the tens of thousands. America, please, what are you doing? Okay. Seattle.cbslocal.com. Study. Obesity increases driver's risk of being in a car accident. This is interesting. Okay, this is where government subsidies strike again. Okay. Loading. This obesity thing is getting out of control. What's it coming from? How about high fructose corn syrup? How about the fact that if you take the health pyramid that you learn about in school and you flip it upside down, you realize that government subsidies go to sugar and junk food, and healthy food that you have to eat within a couple days and has to be grown semi-locally is super expensive. Now, how did we end up in that scenario? You don't think it was an accident. It's called the Green Revolution. And it was financed by the Rockefellers, who owned the oil, and the Green Revolution was all about using oil in agriculture. Okay. Study. Obesity increases driver's risk of being in a car accident. A new study claims that obesity could not only increase a driver's risk of being in a car accident, how many times you got to repeat this stupid article, but also result in more severe injuries. So basically they're saying, and I hate the word fat, but they're basically saying if you're fat, you're going to be more likely to be in an accident. I don't think so. Because generally people who are heavier are more cautious people. They have to be. They walk more cautiously. Okay? They're usually more self-conscious. Self-conscious people don't drive like crazy. So I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to give that any more credence. Okay. We're going to move on. Smartmoney.com. I don't believe that. I believe heavier people are more cautious, and they're more self-conscious because you drive like you walk and talk. Okay. Smartmoney.com. For unpaid college loans, feds dock Social Security. Yep. And this is nothing but a default. How is this anything but a default? Everyone in college or went to college was sold the idea that if you go to college, you remember this poster? It showed this ginormous house. Everybody's seen this. If you've gone to college, you've seen this. It shows this ginormous house and then all this garage far away from the house because it's such a big estate that you got to walk a long ways just to get to the house from the garage. And of course, in the garage is a Ferrari, a Porsche, a Lamborghini, a limo, a Rolls Royce, whatever. And it says right on there, justification for higher education. I know you've seen that. You know what that's called? Propaganda. And everybody bought into it. People borrowed money to go to college, and now they don't have the jobs. And even if you have the job, you don't have the wages. And if you think you do, if you think you're safe in your job, you don't listen to the Mark David Show. Because number one, the Treasury is sending the jobs overseas, and number two, it's called gas prices, and they're heavily subsidized. And that is because America is spread out, and they have to keep the prices low so they can keep everybody moving and burning 19 million barrels of oil a day. Well, it can't go on forever. Look at the price we pay to get more oil out of the ground. Look at the tar sands, an area the size of Florida that we're basically turning into a tumor for the earth. There's that. And then there's also the fact that Saudi Arabia is drilling offshore, which is one of the most expensive endeavors in the world, because they're running out of oil. The fact that the Britain is going absolutely broke because of the North Sea oil reserves. The fact that Mexico is in all out, people are getting their heads chopped off, and it's an all-out decline. And no, it's not because of the drug lords. That came after. That's the effect. The cause, of course, is that their oil is being in rapid decline. The point I'm trying to make here is everybody is dependent on this substance. The substance is more expensive now to get out of the ground than you actually get out of it. It's called peak oil, and now we're at a point, and the whole monetary system is backed by it. So now we're at a point where everybody was bought into this consumerist crap that if you go to college, you can be a greater consumer, you can have status, and all the things, LA Law on TV, and 90210, and all the things that we were taught were the important things in life. And now it turned out it was just a rotten carrot being dangled in everybody's face. And now, if you don't pay that student loan, they're going to get your Social Security. That is a default. Based on everything I just described to you, that technically makes it a default, which means Martin Armstrong was right. Governments always default. There you go. Which means Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney aren't just creeps. They're also lying douchebags. Okay, don't go anywhere. The Mark David Show will be right back. Okay, welcome back to the Mark David Show, where the truth is a conspiracy. Okay, coming up at 1 p.m. after the Mark David Show, I Like Air with Rob Meyer. Got to give a shout out to my peeps here at the station. Okay, I want to talk real fast about country music for 1 second. right before we finish up today's headlines and so forth. Country music. Now, we all know that it's war and it's propaganda. It is pretends to be pro-religion, pro-religious, even though it's all about cheating and drinking. No, it's not all about that. There is good country music. The song I just played is good country music. The reason I'm bringing up country music is because there's just some really big contradictory things that I want to mention. Okay? Now, when you think about country music as war propaganda, don't just think about the garbage you heard before we went into Iraq, like "Have you forgotten?" or "Where are you?" That actually wasn't too bad. At least Alan Jackson's got a good heart, I think. But Toby Keith, can't stand the guy. I can't stand him. I can't. He rubs me raw. He's like a Paul Ryan-ish kind of person. Okay, and this is what you got to go back all the way to Merle Haggard, one of the best singer-songwriters ever in any genre. But the guy has a couple really big fat contradictions I want to point out for all of you who hitch your wagon to your philosophical idea of how the world works based on the music you listen to and the clown outfit that you wear. Okay, so let's talk about Okie from Muskogee, where Merle Haggard says, "We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee." In that same song, he says, "White lightning still the biggest thrill of all." So he condemns marijuana, but he condones white lightning whiskey or hardcore booze or whatever. So there's that contradiction. Now let's go to another one. Another contradiction where he says, "And working man blues. Never been on welfare, 'cause that's one place it will not be, 'cause they keep me working long as my two hands are fit to use." He sings it just like that too. Okay, Merle Haggard himself, maybe he wasn't on welfare. He wasn't on welfare because he was in San Quentin for crime, because he's a criminal. So yeah, maybe if he would have went on welfare, there would have been less crime, and he wouldn't have had to go to prison. Where by the way, the taxpayers and loans from the banks had to shell out a lot of money. I'm just pointing this out. I'm just pointing this out for you guys who line yourselves philosophically to a genre of music. Seriously, are we really that primitive? All right, let's finish up Okay, I'm going to do a couple Northwest stories. Spokane, turns out, is on the 10 best cities to retire on $100 a day, and that's from the Fiscal Times. Spokane was number 8. Medium home price was $145,000. Sunny days per year, 176. The vibe, Spokane has a vibe, according to Fiscal Times, is lush green beauty meets smart urban planning. Impress friends and family with its stunning riverfront park and historic downtown. So, also, what is now defunct, apparently, the NIA, the National Inflation Association, they actually considered Coeur d'Alene to be one of the best bug out places. So apparently the Northwest is a hotbed for people who want to retire and or run away from California. Okay, we already knew that though. Okay. Vladimir Putin is a comic book character. We only have 2 minutes left. You want to set up your CD? Okay, I was just talking about UK. This is how I'm going to wrap up the show. Now, this is from Press TV. Of course, Press is Iranian news. I always put that out there, but Press TV also has Max Kaiser, so you got to give it some credibility. Okay, the UK has officially stopped growing. This is from Press TV. Now, I was just talking about the UK, the North Sea oil, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the UK cuts its growth forecast to 0%. And why is that important? Well, it's really important because what you got to remember is we have a fractional reserve banking system, financial system, which means we have to have constant growth. And UK is at 0 growth. I'm sure they're at negative growth. Even that's cooking their books. The point is, people, this economy under the structure we have has hit its dead end. And you're going to see contractions economically like Enron, just choom, entire banks, entire companies, just like dominoes. It's over, and they know it's over. By the way, I want to talk about one more thing. Bill Gross. This is on Zero Hedge. Bill Gross on where bad bonds go to die. Okay, a week ago, this is from Zero Hedge. A week ago, we brought you Elliott Management's summary opinion on U.S. paper, We make this recommendation to our friends. If you own U.S. debt, sell it now. Now, Bill Gross, of course, used to be basically one of the largest mutual fund bond traders in the world, and now he's anti-bonds. Okay, this is what Gross said on Twitter. The Fed is where bad bonds go to die. Today it was 10 years, tomorrow 30 years. Stay short, my friends. That's at Pimco, P-I-M-C-O, if you want to join him on Twitter. That was from August 14th. Think about this for a second. I've said this on the show. The Federal Reserve is basically a ginormous shadow bank. It's where the Treasury bonds go to die. It's where they dump off the bad assets. Anyway, unfortunately, that's all the time we have on the Mark David Show. I know I'm sad, too. Like the Mark David Show on Facebook. Unless you're not on Facebook. In that case, I salute you anyway. At Mark David Show at Twitter, unless you're not on Twitter, which maybe you shouldn't be because Saudi Arabia owns it. And don't forget, tune in to the Mark David Show next week so you can learn more headlines, hear more rants, because the truth is a conspiracy.